Hey, it's Sammy for another episode of the I Do Music podcast, and our goal and our mission is to empower and educate musicians and artists worldwide. And today we're talking to DJ Greg Street about the role of the DJ, his We Need to Read initiative, creating a national presence as one of the top Southern DJs and on-air personalities, and how the industry has changed over the last 20 years. Hey, it's Sammy, and you're tuned into another episode of the I Do Music podcast, and I am here with DJ and on-air personality, DJ Greg Street. What's up?
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Sammy's home.
Well, let's talk about how you even got started. We know that actually it didn't start with the turntables. It started with a guitar.
Yeah, I started playing guitar when I was like 6, 7 years old. And when I got to be about 9, I actually started taking guitar lessons. And, one thing kind of led to another. I was already liking music. And my older sisters and my brother, they bought a lot of albums. Mm-hmm. And I used to listen to music a lot. Then they used to take me to some of the parties and dances. One of my sisters is Catholic, so at the Catholic church, they had a community center. So they used to have dances at the community center. I used to go sometime. I used to watch the DJs and like that. I was real fascinated with it, and it really got me into it. In fact, that same place was the first public place I ever DJed for like a party.
A community center.
Right.
Dope. So you actually started DJing around like your teenage years?
Yeah, like 16, 17, like really doing it and, doing parties after the football games and, high school and right after high school. During my high school years, I started actually working at the radio station also because me and one of my friends who I did parties with, we used to go to the radio station to buy advertising for our parties because I started thinking like to do something different from everybody else. Let's put our parties on the radio. Mm-hmm. So after going to the radio station a little while, the guy who ran the radio station like, your name's kind of buzzing. Would you be interested in like training to do radio? Because in small towns, the radio stations really don't have budgets to have real good personalities work on the weekends. So right. I started working on the weekends, doing just all types of shows from jazz to gospel to R&B, just doing whatever I needed to do.
So this is in Mississippi,
right?
Where you from? And so you had your own show basically on the weekends, like you
right.
were on air or you were DJing.
I had my own on-air show. I worked at the urban station, the black station, until I got out of high school. Right out of high school, I started working for a white AC station, which really gave me the real formatics of how radio really works. Like in urban radio, everybody thinks it's all about new music and breaking new music, and they don't really understand what the formatics of radio and how it really works.
And what does that mean exactly? Like what were you learning at that time? The format.
I mean, when you learn pop radio, you learn that the music never stops. The music is the star. You learn how to complement the music. You learn a lot about timing. I can remember I did 7 to midnight. I used to have to record Paul Harvey at a certain time and play it back at a certain time, and then you had the back time to the top of the hour because the top of the hour ID had to hit exactly on time. Mm-hmm. So because the news came down from ABC at the top, right. At 0 you had to be on. Everything had to be on time. So it just taught me a lot about timing and real formatics and reading the Gavin report, reading R&R because at the black station you only read
right.
The BRE. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But at the white station you had the Gavin report, you had R&R, you had all these different publications and I used to read those different publications just to learn a lot of different things about the radio business side of it.
Word. So let's talk about your first big break. You've been on air in a number of places, not just here in Atlanta. You actually had a long stint, not stint, but in Dallas. You were working in Dallas for a while, but your first big break was at, 93 BLX?
Yeah, Mobile, Alabama was my first big break. Actually, when I was in high school working at WRV, WJMG in Hattiesburg, a guy by the name of Tony Brown, he was like the program director. He was right out of college. He had moved to Hattiesburg from Chicago. He had relatives there, so he moved there, and he was the program director of the radio station. So me and him had a relationship. So years went by. He left and went to the Carolinas, and then I had went to the white AC station. And I think after he did the Carolinas, when I was in college, he moved to Mobile to BLX to be the program director, and he brought me and Skip Cheatham from Hattiesburg to Mobile with him. Skip did afternoons, and he was APD, and I did nights, and I did like the midday mix show, the afternoon mix show, and for a while I just did overnights. And then when they converted the stations, that was like when a lot of the stations was just getting into really the 4-hour shifts in the 6 to 10 hip hop shows. So then I started doing the 6 to 10 show, and probably like 88, like 87, 88, and right after that, in 90, me and Tony moved to Houston. Monty Lang, who's a legendary general manager and radio station owner, he had gotten older, but he was still like an in-house consultant for the station. And Monty wanted Tony and the other general manager at the station. No, Monty, they hired Ron Atkins and Tony Brown to be 2 program directors of 1 radio station, kind of. And Tony told him about me, and they brought me down to do a few months after he left. I left and went down. It was like May of 1990. I left and went to Houston. So Houston was really the first big one before Mobile was a big one because, I mean, the ratings were so crazy. That was really like what gave me a chance to do a lot of other big things in radio. Like I had #1 ratings in every demographic up to like 60-some shares. And at one time we had like 4 urban stations in the market. So when I went to Houston, we had that was like my second, one of the biggest major market radio wars in the history of radio. So I was in Houston for a while. Then I moved to Dallas.
And then
to K104.
Then you made your way to Atlanta, but you were doing basically flying back and forth at one point.
Now, actually, what happened when I moved to Tony only stayed in Houston like 8 months, and he left and came to Atlanta, and he wanted me to come then. Mike Roberts wanted Ryan Cameron, and Tony Brown wanted me, so they went with Ryan, and then later, a couple years later, when Ryan decided what he wanted to do, then I came to Atlanta after that when the radio war started in Atlanta.
Gotcha. The radio war.
Yeah, because when I came to Atlanta, they knew that the other radio stations was coming. So it's almost like when I came to V at the same time, Hot came to Atlanta. So it was like maybe like a week apart.
Mm-hmm. So did you think that they really needed that 6 to 10 presence? Where you started at 6 to 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you start the well-known, it's 6 o'clock, it's time for Greg Street to Rock before Atlanta, or is this something that you've been doing because you've always had that evening spot?
Yeah, that jingle was actually made in Dallas. The one that I had before that one was Scarface, My Mind Playing Tricks. We actually made that at the same time when they released that record, right before the record came out. We made the 6 o'clock intro to it. And I had that one in Houston. And I had that one in Houston. And then we made the I actually met MC Breed in Houston.
That's who's on it currently.
Right.
Right.
Before he passed. MC Breed was actually signed to like 3 people. A lot of people don't know this story, but I was like the first radio DJ to play Ain't No Future in Frontin', because there was a guy from Houston named Darren Gates. There was a guy from Houston named Darren Gates that was a part of the situation. And it was Darren, a guy named Sheepdog, and Leroy McMath. Leroy McMath actually lived in Atlanta. And like right after we broke the MC Breed record, Leroy's wife actually was Georgette. Georgette had Spice One, and I helped her do his project also. So that was like the whole beginning of like, dealing with artists and dealing with records and dealing with people who were in the business. And we had such a good relationship just based on our relationship. It wasn't about money. It was just about, these are some good people. Breed was a good guy. Darren was a good guy. I really didn't know Leroy and Swamp Dogg at the time. So, Darren was cool, and Leroy, and I met Breed. He was cool. Like, if you guys team up and really work with this could be real big. Because the record, the first time I heard the record, when Darren played it for me in the car, I was like, this record is crazy.
So you popularized It's 6 o'clock, time for Greg Street to Rock. That is something that, people know you for. People know the show for, but it was so popular that you actually named a mixtape or a compilation after it, that volume one,
Right.
6 o'clock. You helped produce a few records on that project, correct?
Yeah. The one with Pastor Troy, with Carmo. The one with CeeLo and Phil Mobb and T.I.
And the one with Trina.
And the one with Trina. The one with Trina actually was a song I found on a demo tape. Midnight Black, who produced a lot of stuff with Jeezy and other people, he had this mixtape he was trying to put out. And I heard the record and actually and I wanted to put it out, but it was like it was him and somebody else who nobody knew. So in trying to move records through a major label, sometimes you have to have some of their people connected. So that was my reason for taking the record and putting Trina on it and putting Deuce Pop on it, because they was a part of Atlantic and Slip and Slide. A lot of people think when I put the record out, I was actually signed to Slip and Slide. Me and Ted were just always friends. I was actually Mike Caron. I was actually the first person that Mike Caron signed to Atlantic when he became the A&R.
So you were signed to Atlantic as
an artist.
As an artist.
Like a DJ artist.
That's what's
And
up.
a lot of those records was made, like the Too Short record, the Scarface Freestyle, which was supposed to be a record, but we never finished it, so we just turned it into a freestyle. Let me see what else. The UGK record, Pimp C actually produced that and put it together. What else?
So you just bringing everybody together on
Yeah,
this
just
project.
putting everybody together, and we going in, like, a lot of the music that you heard on that album was recorded in this same studio.
Oh, wow. That's what's up. I was about to ask your relationship to Patchwerk and like what you've experienced being here, what type of records you've heard or been a part of here in the studio.
When I first moved to Atlanta, Patchwerk was up the street. You know, I used to come, see Curtis and Bob, and, like I said, they was good people, and we just always worked together and had a great relationship.
So let's talk about mixtapes. I think, obviously, as a DJ and someone who has been involved with the process of making records and things like that, what do you think, or how do you think that's contributed to the success of you as a DJ in terms of like mixtapes and coming up with these compilation projects? If it has.
Like being a DJ?
The mixtapes game in terms of you being a DJ and like
Well,
your
I was,
success.
like when I was in Mississippi, I did a lot of mixtapes.
Okay.
I used to work at a record store, and I used to do a lot of mixtapes. The guy who owned the record store, he was like a big part of my career also. His name is JJ, James Jones Jr. He owned JJ's Record Mart.
Nice.
And I used to do a lot of mixtape for the store, and then I would DJ on the road, like Brookhaven and Columbia and Waynesboro and just different places, all the way to the coast, Gulfport, Biloxi, Wiggins. I would go out and DJ in different cities, so I would sell tapes in other cities, and he would actually sell them in the store, at home.
That's dope. That's dope. So how beneficial are mixtapes today for an artist? Because obviously, I mean, there's so many different streaming platforms. There's so many ways you can get music and actually sell your music. How beneficial is a mixtape for an artist today?
It's a great promotional platform, because it's really like an album now, because you can monetize it. You can do Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music with mixtapes if you have the paperwork straight with you and the producers, or how you got the publishing structure. If there's samples, if you've cleared it, I mean, you can jump out the window sometimes and get in a lot of trouble. But for the most part, if you understand the business, mixtapes can be very beneficial to you.
And what business should an artist understand in terms of getting their music out there monetized?
I mean, just understanding the percentages and how you're paid on different platforms, how they pay you, when they pay you, what are you being paid for? How many streams equals how much money. How much you're getting per download. What kind of deal have you worked out with the producer? So it's not like you making money off of his music and he's not making anything. Then it becomes an issue. And then the record blows up, and now you got a lawsuit.
Right. Right.
So it's just understanding, like, the music business, the business side of the music industry is almost bigger than just making the music. Like, a lot of people think, because I'm a great artist, I'm going to be big. And if your business is not handled, there's a lot of very, very incredible artists that never get to be on the platform they deserve to be on, because they don't understand the business side of it.
Absolutely.
The business is very important. business is a talent.
I agree. I agree. You gotta be more than just a talent. So let's talk about how you started working with YMCMB in 2012.
Well, and actually, it started in the '90s. I started doing a lot. I was the first person to actually bring Cash Money to Atlanta. They didn't have a deal at Universal at the time, and me and Birdman and Slim and Manny and Juvie and all of us got cool. Wayne, BG, Turk, we all got cool. You had Wolf back then. Wolf was Manny Fresh's keyboard player, incredible. You had Joe Casey, you had Lack and Stone. Who else was around? It was a lot of people around during that time, and after that time. But in the beginning, it was like I heard about them buzzing throughout the Southwest.
Right.
And a lot of stuff buzzed out the Southwest before it came to Southeast, like Paul Wall, Chameleon, Slim Thug, Mike Jones. I worked a lot with them also. So hearing about Cash Money. Even like when I was in Houston, I knew about Outkast. I was working with talking to Rico and Rico Wade before I even moved to Atlanta. Like Outkast was bigger in Dallas than they were in Atlanta when they first came out. Like I brought them out to Dallas. We did this legendary show that everybody talks about when
What show
Outkast
is
performed
that?
at the Bond Factory downtown Dallas.
Nice.
So, I've always been a person who knew how to research and find out what's going on in other areas. You know what I'm saying? Like the relationship with me and E40 started in Dallas before he ever had to deal with Jive. So there's a lot of artists like that. Master P, I met Master P when he was actually in Houston in like 90 when I worked at Magic. He had records back then that I would play on the radio that no other DJs would play. I can remember, if you listen to Master P's music, a lot of his music is always kind of patterned after something else. So everybody took it for a joke. And I used to always tell him, if you ever get some production, it's going to be crazy. Because he had a record back then called Jack of the Jackers, which was like a takeoff of Ice Cube, Jacking for Beats. And it was like, you ever get production, it's going to be crazy. And I didn't even know about the Bout It Bout It record. I was in Atlanta when the Bout It Bout It record came out. And people was like, you heard this guy, Master P? He got your name on the song. Like, I hadn't even heard the record yet. And when we finally got it, was still early. We finally got it and got back in touch with him. With P, we was always friends from, we was always cool from Houston.
Right. So you talk about, well, you didn't really necessarily say breaking records, but essentially that's what you were doing. You were playing records before other people were. Is that correct?
Well, some of them, a lot of these artists, it's almost like when I first started DJing serious, when artists came out like Too Short, people all over the United States knew who Too Short was, even if you never heard a Too Short record. You know what I'm saying? You heard of them.
Right.
So a lot of these people, if you're in contact with people in different areas, if you're into music, you're going to hear about, artists. Like, you know what I'm saying? I did a lot of stuff with Cold Chillin', with Fly Tie, and with Wu-Tang Clan, and with Das Effects, Tribe Called Quest, Busta Rhymes, Biggie in the early days, and Craig Mack, and Puff, and Jermaine with Crisscross, and Escape, and Brat, and and I never ever came to Atlanta until I moved to Atlanta.
Right.
So these were like people who would just send you a tape or send you a cassette or send you a dad. You talk to them on the phone. You may see them if they come to your city on promo tour. But other than that, it was a little different because you didn't have the internet and people didn't travel as much.
Exactly.
If you wasn't on a major label, it wasn't really like a lot of independent artists who understood the importance of getting out on the road doing a promo tour. If they was hot in the area, they was cool with that.
So you spoke a little bit about people sending you cassettes and all of that. What are the technological differences in terms of, do you enjoy DJing today versus like actually having vinyl? And I mean, do you still use vinyl?
Yeah, I mean, the technical side of it, it makes it a lot easier, and it makes some people lazy, and it makes some people who just getting into it don't really understand it. Like, because I was always the DJ who would play records that people would be scared to play, like Ice Cube, No Vaseline. Like, I can remember cutting that up with a razor blade, a Ghetto Boys record, like Willie D, Read These Nikes, taking a razor blade and a quarter inch in a reel, cutting it up and putting it, like I was able to put one of those records together in like 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And put it on the radio. You know what I'm saying? Just sitting there while I'm on the air, and I got the reel-to-reel. We got the reel-to-reel on the side because we used it to record phone calls and commercials and different stuff. So I would cut up the songs and make radio versions right there on the spot in the studio.
That's dope. That's crazy. Well, now it's a lot easier.
It's a lot easier now. You got, you got Dolby Audition, you got Vox Pro. The engineers do them in Pro Tools.
Yeah.
But back then a lot of those songs they didn't have radio versions.
Yeah.
And people wanted to hear them.
So you had to just make it happen.
Just had to make them.
Damn. Well, everyone knows you got a love for sneakers, right? So tell us about Sneaker Friends Party. I'm not familiar.
Sneaker Friends is like a cultural brand that I started just to bring the sneaker community together in Atlanta and move it around to other cities. We did some stuff in Toronto, did some stuff in Charlotte, L.A., a couple other spots, but it's really the foundation of it is Atlanta, the Atlanta sneakers community, bringing the community together, streetwear, sneakers, and people just having a good time on a whole nother level. I try to always bring in somebody or bring people around that the sneakerheads in the community of Atlanta look and love from the internet and love from a distance so they can be able to touch them and feel them and meet them and understand like these people are just like you. They put their pants on just like you put your pants on. You're no different. So they, the younger people just get a chance to really understand a little more about the culture. Some of the people that think Atlanta is not cool when it comes to that cultural aspect, for them to understand, like, Atlanta is popping. Atlanta is on. So it's just like another thing like music, like kind of like bridging the gap.
Right. That's what I was saying.
Bringing people together. Like, Clark is involved a lot. Mayor, Friendlations, All Day. I didn't have one last year. We're gonna have one this year. Last year I bought, but 2015 brought out Just Blaze, came out. Of course, Clark, Mayor. Who else? Premium Pete.
So where do the sneakers come in? Is just people who have a love for sneakers, or it's just it's a party, right?
It's kind of like a buy, sell, and trade event mixed with a party.
Gotcha.
Mixed with people walking around. You got music. The music's playing. I normally do a mixtape for it. We give out the mixtapes, T-shirts. I do a T-shirt. But you have a lot of vendors who come out who have T-shirt brands,
right?
Who are sneaker resellers.
Gotcha. Sometimes
brands get involved. Adidas has been involved in it before. They actually made a sneaker for it, and they sent out the big giant, like 6-7
Was that the one with the diamond on it? I mean, I saw you have like a bunch of videos about sneakers on YouTube, but there was like the shell toes with the diamond on it.
No, it has the Sneaker Friends on the,
on
the side.
Okay. You got too many sneakers. I can't keep up.
You gotta step your game up, Sammy. You gotta step your game up.
One day when I'm making the bucks like you.
Are you making the bucks?
All right. Yeah. We ain't gonna lie on
this you have to sacrifice. See, a little less money on makeup, a little less money on nails. Do your nails yourself. Do your makeup yourself. That's a pair of sneakers.
He don't understand.
See, if you do a podcast every week and you do all that yourself, that's a pair of sneakers.
It's priorities. Whatever your priority is a little bit different than mine. That's probably what it is. It's all good. Anyways, you had like I said, you got a lot of videos on YouTube. Sneaker Heat was one of the ones that I caught wind of, and I thought it was super interesting. You had a pair of Forces. You had people sign at the BET Awards.
Dunks.
Dunks. Those
a
are
pair
dunks.
of Dunks. Yeah.
Yeah, like
that was what year was that? Like 13 or 14?
Yeah,
like Chris Brown signed them.
Everybody signed them sneakers.
Ice Cube signed them.
Nas was the first name.
A lot of people signed them. In fact, I might need to give those away.
Yeah, you could definitely give those away. Nah, I like that, and I also caught wind of some webisodes you were doing back when, before people I feel like were even doing webisodes. I think that it actually said MySpace at the end. It's MySpace.com. So tell us about those webisodes, and are you making another appearance on YouTube to show us the day in the life of Greg Street? We want to see.
Maybe I may do one. You actually have to find like a good video person to do that. Like the one you probably saw the one we went to the bounce and all that. That's the one you're talking about.
The first one I looked at you said it's 5 a.m. I just left Club Crucial.
Oh yeah, I think that's the same one. Yeah, it's I forgot who did it, but like we just did that day, and he just happened to be a person that was good at doing them.
Yeah.
And like you just got to have you got to have a good person that understands your vision and what it is you want to get across. You know, a lot of video people are like a lot of artists. Sometimes, you know, every video person can't shoot sneakers.
Right.
Every video person can't shoot movies. You know, you may be good at doing video and can't shoot movies. You may be good at shooting movies but can't shoot music videos. So you have to find somebody that makes that perfect connection
Right.
to be able to pull it off. So I may do another one.
I think you should. You funny. You funny.
Sometimes. I get off a good one every now and then.
Anyways, aside from your love for sneakers, you got a love for car and bikes.
Yep, right.
And you've been around since, I guess, the inception of the car and bike show, basically. What's your role in that? Obviously, you know, V103 does it, but what's your role in that, and like, what's your love for the car and bike show?
It was just an idea I had been sitting on because I had done them in Texas, and
Okay.
nobody had really did them in Atlanta. I was like, people don't understand. Like, it was even hard for me to get people in Texas to understand that people want to see celebrity cars. People want to see cars. Like, that's another whole culture like sneakers. It's another whole culture like art. People want to see it. Like, guys who are in the bikes, women and guys, people who are in the bikes, period, people in the cars, period, they're really into it. And other people want to come see it and see what the next person has done or what creativity they've put into their project, and, you know, with motorcycles and cars. So,
And this event also has a number of artist performances and other facets to it besides just looking at cars and bikes. But you bring out a lot of your friends, celebrity friends, but you bring out your friends to these shows and these events.
yeah, but like a lot of people get it misunderstood. The cars and the bikes is really what the whole event is about. The concert is like just added, but more people actually come out to see the cars and the bikes than the concert.
Gotcha.
And you would just be surprised, like, how much money people spend, you know, outside of buying a nice car, what they do to them, you know, like, especially like with the old school cars. You take them off the frame and restore them from the frame up, from the ground up. You know, it takes a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of different people to be able to do all those type of things. Same thing with motorcycles. Motorcycles sometimes are not as expensive to do as cars, but it's still tedious, and you still got to have the right people involved.
Right. And you have a motorcycle.
I have a few
You have a few.
motorcycles.
You're a Harley Davidson member.
Yep. I'm a Hog chapter member.
A what?
A Hog chapter member.
What does that mean?
The Hog chapter is like it's a program inside of Harley Davidson.
Oh, okay.
Inside of Harley Davidson from the company side.
Sounds exclusive.
If you buy a bike, you can be a member.
Well, you sound like you know more than me about, but I don't know nothing about no Harley Davidson. I just saw that you.
I might know a little bit more than you.
A lot more than about that. But so aside from cars, you got a love for sneakers. People would know you as a hip hop veteran. People believe that you are like one of the pioneers in terms of just all that you have done, all that we've already talked about. How do you think the radio industry has impacted the hip hop community?
Radio really didn't radio really didn't embrace hip hop until like in New York, you had the hip hop shows on the weekends in the 80s, but radio really didn't start really embracing hip hop until probably like really embracing it in the late 80s, early 90s. They started embracing it. I think the radio side of it kind of took away a lot of the cultural side of it because it commercialized it.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that grows, it's going to have its pluses and its minuses. So, I mean, it brought a lot of money to the game for the artists and for the producers and for the labels. So I guess it was some good changes and some bad changes.
Yeah. Speaking of the changes that have happened in the industry, this is another question I had for you. You can see that, particularly with artists and producers, how much has changed. Like from the money that they're getting too. Like you're not really getting those, or labels especially, you're not getting like the album sales and things like that. A lot of artists are becoming independent from putting out their own albums. You're getting like a couple cent off of each stream or whatever the case may be. How do you think that has been an effect on, or has had an effect on these artists, these labels even, in terms of making money off of their music?
Reconstructing. It takes, like, the music business goes through, any business goes through changes, and you have to be ready for the change. You have to be prepared. Like, the music business is an ever-changing business. I mean, when you look at, it went from sheet music to records, from
Right.
records to 8 tracks, from 8 tracks to cassettes, from cassettes to CDs. The digital platform of the CD really kind of took it to a level almost of no return, but it's still a lot of money to be made, because now you got to think all the money is digital. So it's like you're not producing a physical project anymore. Really, you don't have to make the money. So that takes a lot of the expenses off
Yeah.
of the plate. So people have to really just look at it for what it is. Like, it's a change. How do we adapt to the change
Exactly.
to keep it moving? When you look at how creative Jimmy Iovine was when he created Vimeo, he created a platform inside of a platform. He took the YouTube platform and figured out how to create a business inside of it that generates publishing money for the artists from the performance of their video plays.
Wow.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? It's like, from the streaming services, paying artists and paying producers from the streams of the music. So, you have to get a whole lot more streams in order to generate that dollar. So that's what I was saying earlier. It's the artists, when you get into this business, you got to understand a lot of what you're getting into. When you see the kids from the streets who really don't want to learn, they feel like, I don't want to go to school, I just want to be a rapper. I don't need this. But they're going to teach you how to do a research. They're going to teach you how to do a research paper at school. They're going to teach you how to add and subtract.
Right. You
They're
need
going
to
to
know
teach you how
that.
to read.
Right.
So when you take all this knowledge and galvanize it, I know how to read my contract. I know how to do math. I know how to add up points and percentages.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I know how to talk to people. So it's like you have to take all of this and understand what it is. And even if you're one of those people who think you know everything too, you still got to have a team of people to represent you, because as an artist and being creative, a lot of things that you may not know, you still may not have time to deal with.
Yeah.
But it's good that you know those things, because at least you can talk about it when the person who represents you in that capacity comes to you and have a conversation with you about something that's going on in your business. You can still talk about it. A lot of artists try to do everything
Right.
because they think they know. You know what I'm saying? The coach knows the game of football, but he ain't got his ass out on the field trying to play every position.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And even if a coach knows everything, he still has a defensive coach. He still has a quarterback coach. He still has a running back coach. He still has a lineman coach. So you ask yourself, okay, what does the head coach do? The head coach is like the artist.
Right. Making a play.
He's like the artist, but all of us think the players are like the artist. And it's actually a reverse role.
I think that one of the great things about you is that you've adapted over the years. Like, you've been in the industry for about over 20 years at this point, and you've been responsible for a lot of different things. And whether you want to say it or not, you've been responsible for breaking a lot of records and being very influential in what you do. What's one of the most memorable moments for you as a DJ, as of on air even? Or a few. We want to hear a story.
It's kind of different because, like, you do it and then you see the artist and then you watch him, like, knowing Kanye West before he was Kanye West, knowing Wu-Tang before they were Wu-Tang, knowing Scarface before he was Scarface,
Right.
knowing Jay-Z before he was Jay-Z, knowing Jermaine Dupri before he was Jermaine Dupri, or Ludacris before he was Ludacris. It's like knowing people, it's kind of like a different, you look at them a little different than everybody else. So the stories are kind of hard because when most people in entertainment, and like the people that we're talking to, we all judge artists based off of where they are now. Mm-hmm. We all judge artists based off of their success. Because I'll say something on Twitter, like I can remember saying, like, Saha is one of the dopest rappers, and everybody's like, why you think he's so dope? And what about Kendrick? And what about blah blah blah? What about blah blah blah? It's like, but you're looking at these guys from where you're looking at them now. Mm-hmm. When you look at Kendrick Lamar, if you go back and Google it, Kendrick Lamar did the theme song for our bike club.
Really?
Yeah, Kendrick Lamar raps. He did the Rare Breed MC theme song.
That's lit.
You know what I'm saying? So when you look at Kanye now, and you thinking about the Yeezys, but you don't even know about the Air Max 180. You don't know about the S. Dot Carter College Dropout. You don't know about the Kanye Bait, and you so gung ho about the Yeezy, and you don't really even understand how this all started. So it's kind of hard to like tell some stories. I was thinking the other day though, this was real crazy. They was talking about Lauryn Hill's son, I think.
Oh yeah.
And I can remember interviewing her at V103 when she was pregnant.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she actually came in because I knew them from Dallas. Like they came to the club in Dallas that I used to do on a Sunday, and it was a part of the beginning of the Fuji. So when I came to Atlanta, she came and did the interview and she was pregnant, and everybody at the radio station like, she's pregnant, she's still gonna come. She still wanted to come do the interview, and like when I did the interview, the last big interview with Kanye. He actually had somebody from the label get in touch with me to come to the concert so I could see the show, so I could interview him that Monday after the show just to talk to him about what I got from the performance and the production and how he put everything together.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to tell stories that a lot of people won't have certain types of criticism for because they don't understand. It's almost like growing up around your brother. You know what I'm saying? You growing up around your brother, and your brother becomes a superstar. You don't look at your brother the same way everybody else looks at him.
Yeah.
That's your brother. You know what I'm saying? Y'all ate out the same cereal bowl. Y'all, you know what I'm saying? y'all share burgers. Y'all,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Y'all got the same mom and dad. Y'all slept in the bed together.
Right.
So it's like it's hard for you to look at certain people the way the general public looks at certain people because the general public bases everything off of the success.
Currently.
We don't do research. We don't know what happened. We don't go back and find out. Like somebody was asking me one day about why I think Atlanta's so big in the hip hop. I think it's because of the civil rights movement. I think it's because of the way the civil rights movement set Atlanta up to be a big political city and a business city, able the music business to be big.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of people think it's just because of the talent, but you got a lot of people that's not from Atlanta that move to Atlanta become big in the music business because they have the talent, but the cities that they live in don't have the infrastructure and they're not respected, and everybody's in your city trying to be an artist, so nobody supports one another.
Right.
And in Atlanta, it's a little different.
Yeah.
Because you got so many sides of town. Like everybody think all the artists in Atlanta love each other, and they don't. It's so big and there's so many people. You don't really think about it
though.
because so many people do support each other.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? If me and 2 Chainz is cool, I might not have to be cool with T.I. You know what I'm saying? So everybody around the world, them Atlanta guys cool. They look out for each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But you have to, and it really doesn't really matter in the overall scheme of things. But when you go into some cities, there's so many people want to be into the music business. You go to a showcase and it's nothing but a bunch of artists there.
Right.
So you could tell right then, like, none of you guys have a following.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's here to see you except for the other artists.
Mm-hmm. That's real. I agree. I think that's a positive thing about Atlanta, though, is that we do appreciate the scene. We appreciate the artists and their artistry but then it also goes into everybody creates or everybody wants to be in that space. So I think it's a little bit different.
I mean, the scene is crazy. You got to think, in most cities you go in America, even a lot of big cities, all the black people go to one place. In Atlanta, it's 10 places popping on the same night, 15, 20 places popping on the same night.
That's true.
So it's a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? It's a little different. You got to think, in one night, you got 10 strip clubs popping and 10 regular clubs popping at the same time.
Yeah.
And nobody's tripping saying, well, ain't nobody over there, everybody over here.
Right.
And that's what you get in other cities.
Speaking of strip clubs, you still you do Trap Thursdays at Blue Flame.
Right.
And
Money Trap Thursday.
Yeah, correct me. I'm sorry, I stand corrected. Money Trap Thursdays on Thursday, obviously, at Blue Flame. And I wanted to ask you, because I asked someone before and their response was a little different. Do you believe that records can still be, or are they still breaking records in the strip club? Like, is that a thing anymore? Are people still like, I'm going to the strip club and I know I'm about to, have my record played and people gonna really mess with it? Is that a thing anymore? Because years ago, that was a thing.
Kind of, sort of. It has to start somewhere before. You know what I'm saying? The best thing to do is to try to find out if you got something before you go to the clubs. Like, it's different stages. Like, a lot of people think, oh, if Greg Street play my record, I'm out of here. Nah, it's got to be a good record.
Right.
And it can't be just a record you think is good.
Yeah.
And you and your 10 homeboys, or you and everybody on your block, you got to go outside the block. The world is a whole lot bigger than 285. And you can ask a lot of artists. You ask Future. You ask Outkast. You ask T.I. You ask some of these artists that travel the world, and they get to see. Like, you got to think. Look at Lil Jon and Waka Flocka, how they transcended and transformed their whole career outside of urban music, because they got out there and they saw how big the world is. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And CeeLo and Akon. But you got people in Atlanta think like Lil Jon, CeeLo, Akon, and Waka, they not even popping no more. That's what people think. And
little do they know.
And little do they know. They probably making more money than your favorite artist that's got 1 million plays on live mixtapes.
That's real.
You know what I'm saying? That you run around thinking that this artist is super crazy.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think there's so many different ways to go about breaking into just not only hip hop but expanding as an artist overall. You have
to understand that it's got to start somewhere. Most of the time, it's not going to start with Greg Street. It's not going to start at the Blue Flame. Like, this whole thing about breaking records, that's a whole big misconception. It's like somebody had to make the record. Somebody had to engineer the record. Somebody had to have the idea to bring the record to Sammy at the podcast, I Do Music. Somebody had to have the idea I want to mix the record at Patchwerk. Somebody had to have the idea to put this whole project together. So they don't get no credit. It's just the DJ over here saying, hey, I broke this record. Man, if y'all don't knock it off. It's a whole lot goes into making a record successful. And there's a team of people that gets involved in breaking records. Like, I can remember having this conversation with DJ Nando before he passed, because everybody says like DJ Nando broke Jeezy, DJ Nando. Okay, what was Coach K and them doing at this time?
Right.
What was Kinky B and all these guys that was in the mix doing at this time? What were they doing? What was Shawty Red doing? What was Jazzy Faye doing? What was these producers doing? What were they doing? So it's like, because he had an artist, Swift, and I was explaining to him, like, now you get to understand that it's a whole lot more to breaking a record than a DJ in a club with 200 people.
Right.
It's a whole lot more to breaking a record than a DJ in a club with 500 people.
So now that things have changed, we talked about just the music and the artistry changing. People believe that radio is a dying art, and because streaming has become more popular, and you have things like podcasts and et cetera, so many different ways that you can get this content out, right? What are your thoughts on the radio industry? Do you believe that it's a dying art? Do you believe that there's always going to be space for it's 6 o'clock, time for Greg Street to rock?
That's just another misconception. It's just another part of what we like to do. We like to argue. We like to debate. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you got to think, when you listen to a podcast, it's for information.
Right.
It's for the conversation. When you listen to streaming, you just want to hear the music. When you listen to the radio, you listen for music and information. Like, I don't think, like, you can't listen to your favorite playlist on Spotify and know that Nike at Linux is having a 50% off sale.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You can't listen to the podcast on Spotify and know that your brother's best friend got shot yesterday, or your little sister's high school basketball team won a state tournament.
Shout out to me.
Yeah, so you can't. It's just different ways to get information, and different ways to get music, and different ways to enjoying things that you like. So I don't think the traditional radio form will ever go away. I think it's going to go through its transitions.
Right.
But I think what happens with things like podcasting and things like internet radio, it's too easy to do.
Right.
By it being so easy to do,
So many.
it's going to be oversaturated.
Mm-hmm.
So once it gets oversaturated, then there's people got to figure out, corporate America got to figure out how many people are they really reaching, because there's so many.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's so many, and how do we really track and understand, are these the people that we want to reach? And how many of them really even know how to sell advertising? How many of them know how to even monetize what it is that they're doing?
Exactly. I agree. So aside from being an on-air and a DJ, you do a lot of things, which I think is what radio is, you know, being a part of the community, reaching and touching people aside from just, you know, being the voice, right? So you have a great campaign you started, the We Need to Read program. What is that program, and how are you affecting the youth through that program, or impacting the youth through that program?
I was doing a lot of stuff with the youth from the beginning of being in radio in Mobile, in Dallas and Houston.
I think a better question is, why are you so interested in investing that time into the youth? What is that for you?
I just really think if we don't invest into ourselves, you got to think, when you turn on TV, or you pick up a newspaper, or you go online, the things that get the most views, the things that get the most comments, are the things that make us look monkey. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we don't even really pay attention to how much we're focused on the negative versus the positive. But then we get mad at the TV station because you only see negative stuff on the news. The internet is free.
Right.
So if the internet is free, if Instagram is free, if Snapchat is free, if Twitter is free, why do we only see more negative get attention than positive? Why do we focus more on the attention of the negative than the positive? But we'll, in the same sentence, we'll say, these kids are going crazy. They didn't just turn crazy. It's like,
what happened?
Somebody's responsible for it. Like, and one of the things I kind of understand is, I'm not perfect, but one of the things I kind of understand is, if you're successful, you need to go back to the community and give back something: time, money, programs, ideas. Just be involved some type of way to try to make a difference in what's going on, because these boys just robbing people at the gas stations and stealing cars and selling drugs. I just saw on the news last night, a little boy right out of high school, little young man right out of high school, him and his friend went to sell somebody some weed, and the boy got shot and killed. And his friend was on the news saying, you know, we went to sell them some weed, and something happened and the gun went off. It's like, in this same story, we're saying these are two good kids. If they two good kids, why they going over to sell some weed? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you're putting yourself in a bad situation. And from the outside looking in, it looks like they're from a good home. It was in a nice area. You know, some people, you know, trying to fake it till they make it. But, you know, from the outside looking in, it looks like a good situation. But why do young black men think that you gotta take somebody's car and go sell it? You're gonna take a $50,000 car and go sell it for $1,500, $2,000 so you can get enough money to buy you a little weed and some pills and a fresh outfit so you can ball out for the weekend. Right. You just went and took somebody's car so you can have a nice weekend. Like, does that make sense? Mm-mm. Like, it's only gonna last for 48 hours. Right. You know what I'm saying? You just messed up somebody's whole life so you can have fun for 2 days. And one of the things I've been toying around with, trying to figure out how to present, is like, when you see a lot of men, when they come out of prison, the first thing they talk about is how much they read, and they read the Bible, and they read all these books, and they became a Christian, and they got closer to God, they became a Muslim or whatever. And you gotta think, okay, we were trying to get your ass to go to school, you didn't want to do it. Right. You know what I'm saying? It took a 5-10 10, 15, 20-year sentence for you to understand what you needed to do. You could have been a doctor. You could have had a doctor's degree. In a fraction of the time that you spent in jail, so you had to go sit down to learn how to read. So the We Need to Read program was designed. I started the Greg Street Scholarship Fund, and it really all started. The money part of the scholarship really started. I used to give away money to schools, but the scholarship part started. I used to, at V103, I used to donate all of my talent fees from my remotes to give away in a scholarship. And I didn't have a foundation or anything. I had there was a lady, rest in peace, Chini Collins. She had a nonprofit called Nonprofits for Nonprofits. And what she did at Nonprofits for Nonprofits in Southwest Atlanta, she consulted people who were trying to get their nonprofit started. And my whole thing was I never wanted to have one because most people think that everybody with a 501c3 is people that's just trying to steal money and hide money. So what I would do, I would have anybody that I did a live remote broadcast for or an endorsement for at the radio station, I would have them write the check out to Nonprofits for Nonprofits. And my whole goal every year was to save at least $10,000. And I would take that money once she put it all into the account, and then I would give it away in a scholarship for kids who wrote essays about, what they aspired to be and, different things like that. So when the media started attacking the school system, saying, the kids in urban America, the kids in the urban community can't read, I heard this news story about how much money a lot of Fortune 500 companies was putting back into their budgets because kids wasn't applying for scholarships. So my whole thing was I wanted to take this money and start this reading program to make kids understand how important it is to learn to read.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not just to call words, because, in the presentation, I talk to the kids about a lot of straight A students are not as good a readers as you think they are.
They just,
some they're good keyword finders.
Right.
They don't really know how to read. So the whole thing was to make the students understand that a lot of this content and a lot of this material that you think you may not need to know is going to empower you on a whole nother level. Because if I can read history, I can read science, I can definitely read about designing video games. I can definitely read about the people that I admire in the music business.
Exactly.
So then I flipped it and started making them read about the things that they like, to understand how easy it is to read, and reading about the things that you have a passion for, the things that you aspire to be. If you read about those things 30 minutes a day, it's going to help you be a better student in the classes that you don't like.
Exactly.
Because it's going to help you understand. The more you read, the more your comprehension level increases, because, it's just like being an athlete. If you don't work out, you don't get stronger. If you don't read, you don't get better.
Exactly.
So it's the same thing.
That's an amazing program. I'm happy that you're doing that, not only for our community, but hopefully we can make this, impact more communities outside of Atlanta too. So what's next for you in terms of, all that you're doing? Are you still working with artists and making records at this point, or what's up for you at this point?
Yeah, Saha is actually finishing his project on Sony, Brooklyn Nights.
Good.
And I have an artist named Matt Citron. He's signed to Sony also. He's from Atlanta, East Atlanta. He went to Woodward Academy, played basketball, played a little basketball at Adelphi University. But, really like for the past 15 years, like Killer Mike said, man, I've been feeding that 401k. I've been feeding that 401k.
I feel you. And so tell, what advice can you give us or aspiring radio personalities out there, DJs listening that want to break into the industry? Like, what are some characteristics you might need to have as a person who's in your shoes or wants to be in your shoes? What are some things aside from the talent that a person should have?
I mean, you have to be humble. You have to remain humble. A lot of people, when they feel like they've made a few steps forward, they get that chip on their shoulder. You have to remain humble. You always have to remain a student. Like, it's like you never graduate. School is in session. When you think you learned it all, that's the beginning of the end. So you have to always think every day I'm trying to learn something. Every day I'm trying to do something. Every day I'm trying to work towards something. I'm trying to work on something. And it's really just all about respecting and understanding that you don't know everything, and a lot of people around you will try to tell you things and you don't respect it, but you have to learn to respect the bad and the good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my mom used to tell me all the time, if you can learn from anybody, you can learn from anything. If you sit there and watch a dog long enough, you're gonna learn something.
Mm-hmm.
You might learn what not to do. You know what I'm saying?
Don't go pissing on that tree.
Yeah, you're gonna learn what not to do. So if you learn something from somebody doing something wrong, you learn something. So don't discount the educational process of being a student for the rest of your life. I mean, if you want to have a prosperous life, and whatever it is that you want to do, you got to be on the next level. You got to be on another level. You got to learn. You got to understand. You can't be above nobody. You can't think you better than nobody. You can't think that you can't do this. You can't think that because you did this, you can't sweep the floor.
Right.
You can't wash the window. You can't clean the room. You know what I'm saying? It's, Gene Ross walked past the studio the other night and I was sweeping the floor in the studio. It's like, nobody else is going to do it.
Right.
Somebody got to do it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and it's not that nobody else is going to do it, but I'm here now and I see it needs to be done.
So let's just get it done.
Let's just get it done. It take 9 times out of 10, the things that you don't want to do, that you think that you can't do or you don't want to do, doesn't take over an hour. Doesn't take over 30 minutes.
That's true.
For all of us that are out of shape, 30 minutes a day. That's it. It takes 30 minutes a day.
It's true.
If you work out for 30 minutes a day, you can be in perfect shape. If you read about what you like and have a passion for 30 minutes a day, you can be an expert. You can have a college education on your own. It's really just that simple. If you work on your job and the people around you at work understand that you have this work ethic and that you are willing to go the extra mile, and you don't always do it for the camera. You know what I'm saying? You just do it. People are watching you, the class clowns, they think they getting attention. The people, the students in class that the teacher talks about outside of class, outside of school for the positive things that they do, that's the student you want to be. Unless you want to be a comedian, I mean, how far is being a clown going to get you?
Right. Wow. Well, thank you so much. First off, let them know where they can follow you and see all the amazing things you're doing with the initiative. We Need to Read and Car and Bike Show coming up, all of these things that you got going on.
Car and Bike Show's coming up. Sneaker Friends is coming up. Producers Week is coming up on the radio. Let me see what else.
Tell them about Producers Week.
Producers Week is a week when I normally just focus and showcase producers for 5 or 6 days every day on the radio, and then this year we're gonna have like a little brunch or a luncheon on that Saturday, but it's like a week of just focusing and showcasing some of the bigger producers and some of the up and coming producers who really don't get the credit, but they're doing the work.
Exactly, I like that. I respect that. So where can they find out about all of these things, and where can they follow you on social media?
On social media, at DJ Greg Street on Twitter and on Instagram and on Snapchat, Facebook, Greg Street. The We Need to Read has a website. Mm-hmm. We Need to Read.com. We Need the number 2.com. Of course, V-103.com, the radio station's website. We post a lot of stuff on there. The radio station's Facebook, the People Station, V103, or V103, the People Station. A lot of stuff is on there. And, of course, Google.
That's your favorite.
Yeah.
Yes. Google. Yeah, well, as always, thank you for tuning in to the I Do Music podcast. You can follow me at Sammy Approved, and we'll be back next time.
Oh, yeah, the second annual Bike Nick is coming up, too.
Bike Nick
is coming up. We had the first one last year. The second annual is coming up. I think it's May 22nd at the Clayton County International Park and Beach. And this is the second year. It's going to be super crazy this year. So y'all be ready for that, too.
Ooh, sounds exciting.
Sonically superior.